In today's video, I'm going to share 6 tips that you can use to help you lose your menopause belly. Whether you're a woman in your 50s or even in your 40s struggling to lose menopause weight gain. If you're new here, my name is Shirley and I am a nutritional therapist with a 3-year diploma in nutritional therapy. And on this channel, I share videos to help you manage menopause symptoms through your diet and lifestyle. So tip number 1 when it comes to losing your menopause belly is to stop calorie counting. So it can be really easy to think that when we cut back on our calorie intake that we're going to lose weight. And although initially you are going to lose weight to begin with, eventually your weight loss is going to plateau. And that is because when you're cutting back on your calories too much, your body is going to go into starvation mode and your weight loss is going to stall or to stop. The other thing that we have to think about when we're talking about counting calories or reducing our calories is the type of foods that we're eating. So for example, 100 calories of a biscuit or a piece of cake probably isn't a lot. Whereas 100 calories of broccoli will probably give you a lot more in terms of volume. And they also contain vitamins, minerals, fiber, and other compounds that may support you through perimenopause, menopause, or post-menopause. The foods that you choose to eat should really make you feel good. And I'm not talking about making you feel good at the time that you're eating it, but making you feel good in the long term. To be able to lose your menopause belly or weight gain in a healthy, sustainable way, ideally you should have 500 calories less per day. And that way it's a lot more sustainable than going full out and reducing your calories to 800 calories per day, which really is not sustainable. And you'll either end up really gorging on food when you do get the chance to eat, or you may just give up and start eating what you want anyway. So tip number 2 is to replace high carbohydrate foods with mostly vegetables. Although eating high carbohydrate foods such as pasta, bread, rice, potatoes, and all those sort of foods is really nice at the time, and it makes you feel really comforted and full and satisfied. Unfortunately, those types of food raise your blood sugar levels too high, and because our body can only handle around a teaspoon of sugar at a time, our body will then need to release a hormone called insulin to bring the blood sugar level back down. From perimenopause onwards, our body tend to deposit our fat stores around our belly, and it makes it a lot harder because of all those fluctuating hormones. So by replacing high carbohydrate foods with low starch vegetables such as broccoli, kale, cabbage, cauliflower, pak choi, nuts and seeds. You can also use legumes such as your lentils, your peas, your beans, olives and olive oil. You may find that you will start losing your menopause belly in a nice, gradual and healthy, sustainable way. The fiber in these foods also trigger the hormone leptin. It's basically the hormone that tells us that we're full and we're satisfied and we've had enough food. And because the fiber release their energy slowly, there's less likely to be any sharp insulin rises, which means that you're less likely to put on weight, which will help you with losing your menopause belly. The fiber will also feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut. These beneficial bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids to help support weight loss. If you're getting benefit from the information I've shared so far, I'd love you to hit the like button so YouTube knows to share this video with other women who may benefit from the information I share here. And if you'd like to see more videos from me and this channel, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you'll get notified when I've uploaded another video. So tip number 3 when it comes to losing your menopause belly is to add more protein in your diet. One of the things that estrogen support is our muscle mass, and as our estrogen levels drop from perimenopause onwards, that can speed up our muscle loss. The less muscle we have, the more our blood sugar levels go up, the more insulin our body releases to keep our blood sugar levels within that normal level. And unfortunately, that's one reason why we put on weight in perimenopause and menopause and beyond a lot easier. So hormone imbalances such as progesterone, estrogen and testosterone affect the levels of serotonin in our brain. It's now well known that people or individuals who are low in serotonin are more likely to binge eat, have issues with blood sugar balance such as insulin resistance, and are more likely to put on weight. And this is because our body is trying to get serotonin back up into our brain. So by adding more proteins in our diet, we're providing our body with the amino acid, not just to keep our muscle mass, but also to create more muscle from the proteins or the amino acids that we're adding into our diet. And one of the most important things when it comes to protein is providing a source of tryptophan. So tryptophan is actually the amino acid that helps us to create serotonin in our body. So although 95% of our serotonin is made in our gut through the beneficial bacteria creating the short-chain fatty acids, serotonin has a different role within our brain and our nervous system, and that is to suppress our appetite. So good sources of tryptophan are chicken, turkey, beef, pork, tofu, salmon, soybeans, milk, pumpkin seeds and eggs. It's really important that our diet also has sources of magnesium, zinc and vitamin B6, which helps tryptophan to convert into serotonin. So having proteins with fiber-rich, slow-releasing carbohydrate foods such as vegetables is a good combination when it comes to supporting your menopause belly. And that's why I have lots of salad or other vegetables with, say, fish for my lunches. And again, in a similar way, I'll have more cruciferous vegetables for my evening meals. So tip number 4 when it comes to losing your menopause belly is to add more healthy fats in your diet. So this is your avocado, fatty fish, nuts and seeds, olives and olive oil and coconut oil. Having healthy fats as well as the protein and the fiber-rich foods from vegetables will help to keep our blood sugar levels stable. And what's more, adding these healthy fats is needed to support the production and the balance of our female hormones. And while we're on the subject of fats, it's really important that we do avoid fats in processed foods and also fats that has been treated to high temperatures, namely to keep the shelf life of those foods from going off. Now I've talked more about the benefits of adding more healthy fats in this video, and I'll put the card up on the icon above. So once you've watched this video, go and check that out to see how healthy fats can benefit you at perimenopause, menopause and beyond. So tip number 5 when it comes to losing your menopause belly is to stop eating low-fat diet or processed foods. To make these foods palatable, they have to add lots of sugar. So even though these foods may be using sugar alternatives as a way to reduce your sugar intake, these types of foods can actually help to put on weight because they change the balance of your gut bacteria to feed those bacteria that actually support you to put on weight. The way these foods have been processed, as well as being cooked at high temperatures, having added sugar and having added salts and preservative, changes the structures of your cells, creating a state of chronic inflammation, which will only make your weight gain even worse. So when it comes to avoiding processed low-calorie or diet foods, it's really important that you try to plan your meals. That way you know what you're going to eat, and either take your meals to work with you, or if you've got your meals prepared for the evening, that reduces the reliance on processed foods. So tip number 6, when it comes to losing your menopause belly, is to balance exercise with relaxation. From perimenopause onwards, the fluctuating levels of estrogen, progesterone and testosterone create so many changes in our body. So having to deal with cold and hot flushes, mood issues, irritability, anger, not really knowing what's going on in our body, demands from our family, our partner, our job, only getting a few hours of sleep, if you get any sleep at all, fatigue, migraines, aches and pains, or any other symptoms that you may be getting at menopause. All this creates a stress in our body. And then add on the pressures of weight gain, and you may be going to the gym several times a week, or going out for a run, or doing so many physical activities just to lose that weight. But the problem with this is that it leaves us under constant stress 24/7. And when our body is under constant stress, it releases a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol increases our cravings for something sweet or carbohydrate foods. And I'm sure you've noticed it, that when you've had very little sleep, I know I have, that I crave more carbs in terms of rice, pasta, or all those gooey, comforting foods. Our body and our brain's first go-to source of energy is always going to be sugar or glucose, just to keep going. So what can we do? Having more protein, lots of fiber-rich, slow-releasing carbohydrates, such as those from vegetables, and having lots of healthy fats in our diet to reduce the fluctuations in our blood sugar levels that makes us crave those sugary foods. So if you're one of these women who's exercising every day, it may be time to slow that down a little bit. Instead of going for a run every day, or instead of going to the gym every day, it may be worth slowing it all down and just going for 2 to 3 days a week, and instead working with resistance or weight bearing exercise. And when you do this, you're building muscle, and muscle helps to stabilize blood sugar levels, which means that your body only needs small amounts of insulin to get the energy into your muscles, and there's less sharp rises in insulin, which then pushes that energy to be stored as fat instead of being used as fuel. I only actually do 2 to 3 days per week of exercise. So I tend to do 8 to 10k 2 or 3 times a week. I will walk for the first 2 kilometers, and then I'll walk run. So I'll run as long as I can, and then I'll stop, and then I'll run again as long as I can, and then I'll stop. I would do that for about 2 to 3 kilometers of the total length of the 10k. And for the rest of the time, once I've hit about the 6k mark, I'll walk back home. It helps me to calm my system back down. It helps me to enjoy the scenery of the countryside. In that way, it will help to reduce the cortisol that I've used up or I've generated from the run that I've done. I only do that 2 or 3 days a week, and I've found that that has been really effective when it comes to me losing my menopause belly. That might not work for you. You may be in a different situation. You might not be able to go for a run, in which case it might be worth just starting off with doing a walk around your block or going for a walk for half an hour and build up from there. Or a different activity such as Zumba or dancing, and you can build up and see how you go, build up your stamina, build up your strength, and maybe that's enough for you to start losing weight. The important thing when it comes to exercise is to reduce the cortisol rises. HIIT, high intensity interval training, is meant to be really good because you work really hard for a few minutes and then stop, work really hard for a few minutes and then stop, and that way you can get your exercise done in a short period of time and you're not having to raise your cortisol levels up for too long or too often. So maybe HIIT exercise may work for you. Of course, we need to balance all this exercise with more calming activities, whether you're reading a book, having a bath, doing something creative, going for a walk just to enjoy the scenery, yoga, meditation, spending time with your loved ones. Another way that might help you when it comes to relaxation is to try some journaling, and by writing things down on a notepad, or maybe you want a nice looking journal, it really helps to get your thoughts down and your stress that you're feeling, write it down on paper. And by having that space between your thoughts and what you've written down, it may give you enough support to relax you and to know that you can actually offload what you're thinking onto paper without having to find someone to understand how you're feeling. So for me, I do find journaling really helpful when it comes to releasing all those emotions and confusing thoughts that's going on in my head. If you are worried about any of your symptoms or your moods or emotions or whatever is going on with yourself, whether you're in perimenopause, menopause or postmenopause, it really is important just to go and see your doctor to make sure that you are getting the help that you need. If one of your menopause symptoms is to do with anxiety, check out this video on how magnesium-rich foods can help you. And if you want to try magnesium supplements, I'll share information on 4 supplements that you can try to help with your menopause symptoms.